the plight of air travel in America. If only we had rail.
It's so garbage. Like, it gets tiring looking around and just being disappointed with how things are implemented, you know?
Yeah.
Hello, listener. We're in break.
Hello. Welcome to break.
Welcome to break.
We just love the middle of the conversation intros. Welcome to break. This is break for the What's New and Go Fallthrough episode for Go 1.25. And I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about the actual that content of the episode because it's just kind of straightforward.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be good to talk about like whether we like doing them or want to do it in the future.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're trying to carry on Go Time's legacy by doing that because that was one of the staple episodes of Go Time is the release note one. But now that we're not strictly tied to Go, like maybe we can move into like Zig or Rust or something else or who knows?
Yeah, I think doing release notes for other languages would be cool. Like doing maybe for Rust, maybe doing it for Zig. Because I think that would be. Cause I don't know if there's other I mean, I'm sure there's some podcast that probably does release notes for Rust. I don't know if there's any that do it for Zig.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's like This Week in Rust, This Week in Go, or Golang Weekly, or I'm sure there's a Zig Weekly or something out there too. I'm sure that they have it, but I don't know. It's all about what our listeners want to hear, and that's one thing about a podcast where you don't always know what your listeners want because you don't get the feedback because it's very like transactional, right? We record and post, and we don't really hear back much.
Yeah. You have to do a lot of insight into the numbers and how do the numbers do and how many people download the episode and listen to it. And
yeah.
Thankfully, like both Spotify and Apple Podcasts give you some good insights into like an aggregate, how much people are listening, how much they get through an episode, stuff like that. But outside of that, it's tough. It's tough to figure out. And of course, YouTube gives you some good insights too. But
yeah, and it's like if you're watching on YouTube, like a YouTube channel, it's easy to comment because the comment's right there, so you can just do it.
Right.
Here on a podcast, like you'd have to contact us via like email or whatever. So that means stopping what you're doing, and
at least Spotify does have comments, so you can't comment on Spotify.
Oh yeah, true.
I don't think you can comment on Apple Podcasts. I think you can like leave a review, and that's about it.
I think so too. Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm always like social media. Reach out to us on social media because we're there.
Yeah, true.
And we do love replying and talking to people. I love when there's a nice chat going in the Zulip, in the changelog Zulip. I love when there's a nice little conversation going in there. Those are always fun.
Yeah, those are fun. I like when people reach out. It's hard because I know most people are lurkers, and that's fine. I'm not saying like, don't be a lurker or whatever, but you also have to put yourself out there too. And like communities aren't built just because someone puts content out there and nobody responds. Like you have to respond to the content and do it. And this is not me calling for like, oh, we need more people talking to us. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you like something, you should make an effort to like let people know. So that way they know that what they're doing is they can do more of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of ways to get positive signal back to content creators. Like there's a thumbs up on YouTube or comments, but that's basically it, right? And
it's like reading the tea leaves.
Right, it's like reading the tea leaves, but we have a lot of ways to get negative feedback back to people, and that kind of is annoying. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just one of those things. But I like what Go's doing. I don't know. I the more I use Go, the more I do yearn for another language. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and be like, Go is perfect, because as I use like Zig or Rust or do other things, I do wish that in my day-to-day, I can use those where I'm currently using Go.
Right.
But like I've said many times, I am forced to use Go in the domains that I'm operating in, like creating Kubernetes plugins, Terraform plugins, whatever. Those require Go. You can't use anything else. And yeah, I just wish I didn't have to be stuck by that sometimes.
Yeah, I do like optionality. This is why I really want to get into writing Zig, because I'm just like, I have this desire to be lower in the stack still, because the stack is, high level stuff is fun, But I also think part of that is like I really want, like I want more robust functionality, especially when it comes to APIs. Like I've been thinking about this a lot lately, about how I think I mentioned it on one of the episodes of like, or maybe it's in Zulip chat talking to people, but like I want a more robust HTTP client. I don't want it to be the bare bones, like minimal stuff. Like I want it to be able to do like content negotiation for me on some level. And I want it to be able to like pull out different types of headers that are well specified and easy. And like you can implement in like a, here's the RFC, just go implement the RFC and make an API around it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to be able to just like pluck link headers by like being like, oh, give me the value for this link header with this rel in it. Right. And be able to add link headers to HTTP requests and responses easily and all of that stuff, right? Like, it's such a pain to do so much of that. And I want it to be less of a pain. Because I think that's like, it hinders our ability to write good software at the end of the day. Because I also think people don't understand just how much you will gain if you use the full power of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a chicken and the egg problem because people don't realize what they're missing out on.
No, totally. I don't know. I still yearn for the urine. I yearn for Go to really think about its future and like what it wants to be in the next 10 years. Because I don't think the 1.0 compatibility promise thing is going to make Go attractive for the next 10 years, personally. Like, I see how it's beneficial to, programs that compile today will continue to compile. Yeah, I get that. But if other languages add more features and like grow past Go, and the domains that are requiring Go start to loosen and you can do other things in those domains, then Go becomes less attractive, in my opinion. And I don't want to see that happen because I do like Go overall. I don't know. Like if you're going to tell me like, hey Matt, it's 2020, it's 2030 and here's Go 134 or whatever. I don't know if I did the math correct at all there. I said numbers. Then I'm going to be like, okay, great. Good job. I don't know. I just think like the domain is changing. The language isn't, and maybe we can think about that somewhat, especially since like the cloud scene is waning a little bit, in the sense of Kubernetes is not the oh my god new hotness thing anymore. Cloud providers aren't really the new hotness anymore, right? People are moving away from that a little bit, or like just pulling that stuff back on prem, or just like having alternatives today because the market's matured. And it's like, is Go really the king there anymore? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, I don't know if it's so much like you need some sort of breaking syntax change or even the ability to break syntax. I think a lot of it is just like, you need better, like, we need good tooling. Like, we need better quality of life. Like, there were so many good quality of life things in this release that's just like, well, yeah, we needed that for like so long. Like, just the testing stuff. I'm like, yeah, like if it was easier to write really high quality tests in Go, I think that would also like make the language a whole lot more attractive. Or as I mentioned, like if it was easier to build like really robust and full featured HTTP servers and HTTP clients, I think that would make Go more attractive. So I think there are things that could be done and need to be done that will make Go a more attractive language, and might even like be an impetus for other languages to adopt those things as well, right? And I think Go is well positioned as a language because it's kind of like the kind of middle language, right? It does a lot of stuff really good, but it doesn't have the same sort of, I guess, niche that like, Rust is really good at writing like memory safe stuff. And like Zig is really good at writing like low level C interop stuff. Right. And I think Go could just be I feel like Go can still be the language of the web, right? I feel like it still could be.
Yeah.
But it just needs extra stuff added to it.
It's hard. I'm not saying Go sucks or any of that. I mean, I make good living off of Go, right? I've been working in software for Go for the past half a decade now or whatever it is. But I guess for me, it's like I look up and I see what's around and I'm like, oh, I don't see a future for Go in these areas so much. And like specifically, TypeScript is dominating. and when I say TypeScript, I mean JavaScript, TypeScript.
Yeah.
I mean both of them. But TypeScript is dominating, even in the AI agent stuff. People are writing like their AI agents fully in TypeScript, right?
Right.
And then now that also translates to web, because obviously TypeScript, JavaScript dominates the web. And then like, so if they're doing TypeScript for the web and for CLI stuff, that eats into Go. But then if I want to do more like performance critical meta programming things, you have like the Rust and the Zig sitting there saying like, yeah, we got that, right? So I guess for me, it's just like, while Go is like sitting there, you know, getting pretty for prom, everyone's graduated already, in a sense. You know what I mean?
I guess, but it's also like, I think it's sometimes it can be misleading when you look at things, right? Like, yeah, sure, TypeScript and JavaScript are popular, but like PHP is still hugely dominant in like the web server world. And like PHP had like a reawakening as well, right? You get to PHP 7 and PHP 8, it's like those are like really different languages than what was PHP 5. And
when
of
you
course,
give people Lambos, that's what happens.
It's like PHP really, did transform, even though like, the big players, like, I mean, Facebook is, I guess, still, they'll always have a lot of PHP, but like, they have Hack, they have HHVM, they have this other stuff that they're, I think, writing a lot more of their stuff in. So it's like, but PHP is existing in this kind of artisan world. And same thing like Ruby, like Rails is still around. People are still using it to build tons of stuff. So it's like, well, there is all this nice shiny TypeScript stuff. I mean, on the like front end, like in the browser, obviously it still dominates. But I think like in other parts of it, I don't know how much it's dominating over other things. And like, all of this can shift and change. Like there was a while where it felt like PHP was kind of dead, and now it's resurged back to life. And I think the same is going to be true of Go in the future. I think it's really hard to predict how all of these things will shake out. And especially like, I think in the future, as we get more and more toward needing things to be more secure, Go is going to look more and more appealing, because it's like, it's, I think, easier to write than Rust, and like much higher level than Zig, but it gives you the static linking and like a built-in runtime that like TypeScript and PHP and Ruby and Python won't give you. Like I was talking to a friend last night about how like they switched from using Ubuntu as their base container to using Alpine. And like they had all these problems because of Musel libc. It's not GNU libc. And so there was like a Python distribution that wasn't built against Musel libc. So like their whole build thing broke. And it's like, yeah, those are the types of things you have to worry about. And it's like, it'd be nicer. And like, there's a legitimate reason not to want to use the Ubuntu container. It's like 28 megs, and the Alpine Linux container is like literally 10th the size. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to use a smaller one? But it's like with Go, you can just use the Scratch container, right? You don't need to have any extra stuff in there outside of just the binary that you're running and whatever maybe extra files and support stuff you need, because you can easily statically link it and deploy it. So it's like it still sits in that space where it's like, okay, in this case, like that's a really nice thing, and it still helps that a lot of this tooling, a lot of the stuff for containers, not the runtimes, but all the other stuff on top of it, and Kubernetes, that all of this stuff is written in Go. So that's definitely going to keep like Go moving forward a lot, I think. So I think it's difficult to kind of predict where, like, what is going to happen at the end of the day. I also think it just depends on where you're. I mean, you're in a very very Rust heavy place at Oxide.
Yeah. There's a certain level of tunnel vision bias. I don't really know the proper word for that, but yeah, I'm in a context where like I am walking a little bit away from Go because of where I am, and I have a different biased opinion on it. But also, like, I don't know. It's part of my growth too, right? It's a more of a personal thing. I'm not sitting here telling the listener like, hey, you should like be concerned that Go is going to die. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm just saying where I am as an engineer and what I'm working on, I'm starting to see more of the benefits of these other languages, and I want those benefits, but I'm stuck. I can't have those benefits because of the domain I'm operating in, and Go is required for this domain. So I'm just a little saddened by it, and I wish like I wish that were different for me, because I would love to use like Rust for these things, or like Zig or something else, something that has more powerful meta programming features for me and has the concept of like an option, or has things that are blocking me in certain avenues, but I can't. And I don't know, I like to think about that. I like to like think about how that is, and is there a way that, you know, I can change my domain a little bit for that, or will like go adapt and be better in those areas? And I don't know the answer to either of those, but I don't know, it's fun. I like this field for that though. I like there's like a lot of like areas we can all move towards, you know. Like sure, Kubernetes requires Go, Terraform requires Go, and that's probably never going to change. Like if I go up to Terraform and say, "Hey, can I write providers in any language?" They'll probably laugh at me and be like, "Hey, nah, good man." But that's okay, because that's like a small scope. But I'll find more domains to work in that aren't just strictly tied to Go too. And obviously, like the Oxide control plane is a very good place to start. But yeah, it's I guess the overall thing saddens me a little bit, where like take Terraform for example. Terraform's idea was to abstract CRUD APIs in a declarative state thing, right? Where you can like write Terraform and it'll make the API calls, but also manage state, so it knows to be idempotent and declarative. Now, we did that though. We took APIs and we abstracted it in Terraform. We did that by tying to Go. So it's like, so while we've abstracted any API, so now we have the ability to call any API via this one abstraction. We did it by limiting it to Go, you know? So there's just trade-offs. And I think that is what people don't think of up front. And I'm not saying that Terraform is a problem or whatever, but it's like there's more than just, there's cost, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's cost to it that aren't always on the tin that you really think of.
Right.
So, yeah. Fair. And then you get like Pulumi is like, no, I think Pulumi takes it too far in the other direction personally, where like Pulumi is like, yeah, we'll do the same abstraction over CRUD APIs like Terraform does. Great. But you can bring whatever language you want. Python, TypeScript, Rust, Go, whatever, you can have it. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. That's actually bad too. For different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, it's tough because it's like, I mean, it's never gonna be ideal. I think that's the reality. I think you're always gonna be left wanting something, no matter what direction things go in.
Yeah. No, I agree. Totally. You're always going to be left wanting something, and you'll never be satisfied. But it is nice to think about it, right? And talk about it. Like, what if this was a thing, and what if I could have this behavior? But that's not the reality.
Yeah. I just want people to build more stuff themselves too. I want people to get more into their own stacks. Like, it feels like so many people like need libraries and need frameworks to do things, and I'm like, I don't know, it feels like we should be able to do this stuff ourselves, or at least understand how to do this stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, people just don't
know
how to do it. That's
a really good point, because that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to get Mitchell back on to talk about libxev and stuff. Is because he reminds me of, or not reminds me, but he is one such of those people where it's like, I don't have this thing, I'm going to build it. Or I do have this thing and I don't want to use it because I only need some subset or whatever. I'm going to build my own.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I know too many engineers that don't do that. They reach for libraries and packages very quickly. And it's like, dude, you just needed to make an HTTP call. Why are you bringing in this huge dependency for this? And yeah, it's just, maybe it's the velocity thing that's gotten drilled into everyone's mind. Like,
I think it's
speed.
It's a misunderstanding of philosophy. Like, it kind of reminds me of like, you know, transportation infrastructure in America. And I think this is In Abundance, the book by Ezra Klein and Derek Parker. I think that's his name. Not sure. But they were talking about how, you know, it's expensive to build any type of, you know, metro system, rail system, whatever. Like, you know, train cars cost millions of dollars. Like, the MTA in New York City, like each train car costs $7 million to build, deliver. And they were talking, and in the book, he talks about BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, and how they also put in
Rapid.
a what?
Rapid.
Rapid, yeah. They put in a really big order for new rolling stock. And one of the things they did is they intentionally hired people and did a lot of the engineering for those cars internally to the transportation entity. And that actually wound up making it so that, they had this big, I think it was like $8 billion order. And by the end of it, it like came in like hundreds of millions of dollars under budget, because they built up all of this knowledge about like, okay, how do we do this? How do we deploy these? How do we engineer these? Like the internal knowledge got built up in such a way that like now they didn't need to depend so much on external contractors to do things and all of that. So it reduced the costs a lot. And I think that applies to like us as well as engineers, where it's like one of the reasons why it's so incredibly challenging to build infrastructure like train infrastructure in America is because we just don't have the knowledge, right? We don't have the expertise. We don't have the experience. And when it comes time to actually go out and get that experience, we just kind of outsource it. We are always attempting to outsource it.
Yep.
And I feel like we do the same thing as software engineers. Like the first thing that people will do is they will seek out somebody else that has built the thing that they want. Right. It's rare that people will say, okay, what is it that we should build our expertise in and what is it that we shouldn't? The thing that people try and do is try and find expertise elsewhere for basically as much of the thing they're trying to build as possible.
Right.
Right. And that leads to problems, right? That leads to apps that are not secure. That leads to infrastructure that needs to get rebuilt every 3 years because it's completely busted. And, people always want the shiniest new thing. They don't sit down and learn Postgres really deeply or learn SQLite really deeply or Maria or MySQL or any of these databases. You don't learn one database really deeply and just use it for everything, even if it's not a perfect fit. People want to string together all these different databases, all these different technologies. And it's like, yeah, well, that's not going to enable you to actually run an efficient system or an affordable system, right? And it's the same thing true with like Kubernetes, right? It's like everybody reaches for Kubernetes all of the time. And it's like, do you really need this level of orchestrator for what you're doing? Or would it be more beneficial for you to build your own orchestration systems because you're only running a few services and then kind of build it up over time and have the knowledge and expertise of how that thing works in-house so you can really build exactly what you need? Like, and people don't want to do that. They don't want to build up their own stuff. They're like, well, Kubernetes exists. We should just go use that. And it's like, yeah, but that was built for a completely different purpose from yours. And now that you're using it, you have to pay all this money anyway for all of these people. It's like, it will cost you more money, more time, more effort, and give you more problems to go use something off the shelf than to go build something yourself. So much of the time in this industry. And people just refuse to believe that. And I think that just causes a lot of the problems that we have.
It's true generally too. Like, not just in software, it's true in other industries, what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, we renovated our house, and we took the kitchen down to the studs, and we took bathrooms down to the studs, and we rebuilt it, blah, 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 ran some lines, blah, blah, all this stuff. So we renovated it. And we spent money on materials, and we had to use our time, right? So we spent our time doing it. But we spent far less money than if we were to hire contractors to do it. And we got it done probably faster just because of the fact that contractors tend to like draw things out a little bit because they're doing multiple jobs. So
right.
Scheduling doesn't always line up and blah, blah, blah. I was able to work on it basically almost every day, and like, because I built up the knowledge to do this, and it took time, but like, right. I was very clear with myself of why I was building up this knowledge and why, like, what my motivations were. And some of it was financial, so I can save money. And some of it was like, in the future, these skills are going to be valuable too. This is not the first house I'm going to buy. It's not the first time I'm going to have to model something or whatever. So if I have these skills and I can do it, like, this is going to serve me well in the future as well. And it's funny because in that example, people tend to understand it better. But if I ask someone to write their own library in software, they're like, no, it's already done. It's a solve. Like, we have this thing of like, it's a solved problem. Well, yeah. So is breathing, but we all do it, right? Like, like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I'm going to tell you. You breathe, right? And it's funny how reluctant people in this field are to this sort of mindset
Yeah.
of let me build up knowledge internally to solve these problems. So that way, when they come up again and again and again, I have the knowledge to do it, and I can do it faster, quicker, cheaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or faster, better, cheaper, or whatever it is. The three things. And then you look at like companies that aren't doing this, and they suck. You know, like why do you think Google is amazing? You know, why do you think people want to work there? It's like a FANG respected, prestigious company. Same thing with any of the other FANG companies. Why do you think they are that way? Because they're the ones building this stuff, right? They're not just using open source tooling and like layering on top of it like we are. They're building it. You know, they're actually sitting down, solving the problems, and be like, yeah, you know what? We need a library for that. We're gonna go out and think about the problem and build on it. And then now that's gonna give us a foundation that we own, that we can change at will and do the thing. You know, and you do that again and again and again, and you have a great company. But then you look at NJ Transit, and they can't even replace the glass windows, or I don't even know if they're glass. They're probably some polycarbonate thing. They can't even replace the windows on their cars that have been foggy for a decade. Literally a decade, because I commuted in 2016 and they were still foggy, or scratched or foggy, whatever you want to call it, opaque. Why can't they replace a window?
Yeah.
Right? Like honestly, like why can't they like cycle cars in and out? Like say I'm going to take this car of trains out, replace the windows, and have it back on next week. Have it back running next week or whatever. Why can't they do that?
Yeah.
Because they don't have the expertise. Right? They spent zero time. They probably don't even work on their own trains. They probably send it out to a contractor to get their trains worked on or whatever, if they even do that. So it's like now your commuters suffer, prices go up, all of this suffers because you couldn't spend a year updating your skills to like figure this out.
Yeah.
Wild.
Crazy. Yeah. No, that's like the MT. Like I'm actually pretty happy with how the MTA has been, like, the rate at which they have upgraded so many of the different lines, like the rolling stock on the lines, is just like, it's kind of incredible. Like, it's like, wow, you guys actually like, you put together your capital plan, you're getting the train cars delivered, you have suppliers that like things are running smoothly. And like now the experience of using the subway is just like so much better on so many of the lines. Cause you're like, okay, wow, like we have these nice shiny new cars. They have more accessibility. They have like wider doors. They have better signage, and like the whole system has better signage. And I know people complain about like the MTA, and they're like, "Why am I paying?" They're like $2.90 for what? Or they'll like see the subway stations flooding. They're like $2.90 for what? And it's just like $2.90 is like honestly not enough. It needs to be more because the subway needs more money to like actually make it work well.
Yeah,
like people don't understand investing, like kind of how we're talking
that's
about
what it is
with Steve, where
that's
it's like people, you say buy low, sell high, but everybody buys high and sells low. Like that's how it works. And it's like the same thing here. It's like people want to have a well-running subway system. Like they're like, oh, I want to pay. I don't want to pay if the system doesn't run well. And it's like, well, the system's not running well because you don't want to pay. So like you can't have it both ways. Like if you want a well-running system, you have to actually pay to have a well-running system.
Yeah.
And the same is true of all the software we build, right? Like if you want to be at Google scale, if you want to be like a FANG company, then you need to build like a FANG company. Like that's the thing I find so frustrating about all of this. Is it's like FANG, as you mentioned, builds all of their own stuff. That's why, this is why Oxide exists now, is because FANG for decades now have built their own infrastructure, right? They design their own racks. They put all their own stuff in it that they need to have. They build everything from the ground up precisely for what they need.
Yeah.
And it runs well as a result. And everybody over here is sitting like, no, off the shelf stuff works fine. And like, as Brian Cantrell has pointed out multiple times, like, yeah, try actually getting a setup by Supermicro or by Dell at a large number to work well. Like small numbers, you're probably going to be fine, but large numbers, like, no, it's going to be a nightmare for you. Like you need better knowledge, you need better expertise, you need to know how things work. And that is true up and down the entire stack. right? Like you should you should understand how HTTP works. Like you should sit down and read that specification. You should understand how all the different pieces of it work. You should understand the philosophy of it, because you're working with this every day. This is the infrastructure that makes it so your job is possible to do. Yeah. And people just don't want to do that. They just want to be like, I'm just going to use whatever the hot new tool is, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with like people in the front end. It's like, no, you should understand the web platform. Like, stop being so obsessed with React and Vue and Svelte and all this other stuff, and like learn the platform, learn CSS, learn JavaScript, learn HTML, learn how to actually write these things, because they are just so incredibly powerful. And like people don't understand them, and that just holds all of us back as a result, because then companies justify saying, oh, well, we're in React, so we just have to do React, and we got to keep doing React because we can hire for React. And it's just like, but now you're at the whims of what React wants to do with the features that React wants to have, and it's just not a good system. We've built a very bad system for building software, and consequently, software sucks real bad.
Yeah,
like it's all real bad.
This is interesting. You're totally right about the investing thing. And this is actually one of the hidden reasons of why I like went to Oxide in the first place. Not that like, you know, I'm not sitting here saying Oxide's the best company in the world. Oh my God, I love it. I do love it. But obviously there are better and worse companies depending on your use cases. But something that Oxide does that I like, and partially this is because of the leadership team that not enforces, but like advocates for these sort of things, right? We have our own hiring process. We've stepped away from so many status quos. Our own hiring process. We rarely buy services. We build services a ton. Like we don't buy like a hiring platform for our hiring. We build our own internally one. We don't use an external RFD platform. We built our own internal one. We don't use an external off the shelf OS. We like build our own one, right? Like we build a bunch of our own stuff because we've understood the problem domains to a point where we're like, you know what, we're going to build for this now, because now we understand that the existing tools will either, one, not solve the problem, or two, tie us to some abstraction or some solution that may not work for our future problems. So what's the solution? We invest in our own time, in our own people, in our own expertise, and build our own stuff. And people look at Oxide like, oh my God, like only you guys can do it. Only Oxide people can do it. It's like, no, anyone can do these things if you actually just stop focusing on your fake velocity thing that people are scaring you into believing, and actually focus on business value and understanding, here's what I need to do to succeed.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry that you're stuck with shitty hiring software or shitty RFD software or whatever because you didn't want to spend time writing it. Like that's kind of your fault, actually. Yeah. So maybe you should, if you really hate it, don't complain about how like, oh, you know, we're not Oxide, we can't do it. Go do it. Go build. And in any context, like, don't complain about how bad React is when you can choose not to use it too. Yeah. And I know, granted, I know a lot of businesses are so heavily invested in it that it's hard to change, but like there are net new projects. Yeah. Why don't you start there? Why don't you figure it out? How do you think React came about? Do you think that like React was just snapped a finger, it was born? Like, no, someone got pissed off of doing it the one way, so they invented a new way.
Yeah. And it's like the way that we get to having better building blocks is by people building their own stuff and being like, oh, this little thing that I need to have. Oh, okay, we can just standardize that. Like, one of the things in the conversation I was having with people about HTTP, and like, someone brought up when I mentioned link headers. They're like, oh, why wouldn't you just put that in the JSON body? Like, what advantage do you have by having a link header? And I'm like, well, a link header you can use regardless of what the body type is, right? A link header works on any HTTP request and any HTTP response and any HTTP message. You can put a link header and it'll have a meaning, and any tool that understands how to process link headers will be able to process it. It doesn't have to understand JSON or XML or MP4s or anything, right? And it's like, that is a building block. And then you add more and more and more of those building blocks, and all of a sudden, things that are more generic, you can just build a little building block for it, and you can standardize that specific piece of functionality. And now you don't have to have like this big framework to do with stuff. You can just pick up the little pieces of what you want and then build the thing that you want to build.
Yeah.
Right. That's the same thing with like HTML. It's the same thing with CSS. It's like, yeah, you could build the stuff you want to build without having to take this like huge runtime on top of it.
Yeah. I totally agree. We can have a whole discussion about this. I know we don't go so long in the break, so we could probably stop, but
Yeah.
I just hope the listener and the viewer really thinks about this more and like stop tying yourself to technologies that you're either forced to or like you haven't brought up the courage to like challenge. Use your brain, right? Like use your brain. Think about the problem space more. Don't be afraid to build things that solve for your problem. Don't be afraid to step away from the status quo. Don't be afraid to do these things, because that's what this field is all about, is investing in yourself and making your business better and whatever. And I know, sure, you could probably argue with me, like, I don't want to make other people money. Well, you are, right? We all are, unless you're really owning your own business. And even if you're owning your own business, if you take VC money, you're still making other people money. So like,
Right.
there's a lot of this to it. But like, don't worry about that. Go build some cool shit and like solve problems. You know what I mean? Don't. I don't know. I'm going to use this library because it's going to make me faster and velocity is the only thing that matters. Like, it's such a crappy mindset.
Yeah.
Like, think about what else you're saying when you say that. And there are times where that's okay. Don't get me wrong. Like, you should prioritize velocity of shipping something over like, rigor or whatever, right? We do this all the time at Oxide. Like, urgency and rigor are always in tension. But there are times where you can slow down a little bit and think about what you're doing and not have to just get something out and choose a crappy implementation for it. You can build better. So do it.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to end. Any last words? Any last thoughts?
No, I was a little distracted because the embargo for the framework desktop lifted. So all of the
the videos just
reviews and videos are coming out for it.
Oh.
Which I'm not really a big fan of embargoes. I get why they're there. Like, I get it if I'm the company, I get why embargoes are valuable, because you can control your release of the thing. Because we did on Oxide too, when we had embargoes for the Series B announcement and all that stuff. But as a consumer side, like for consumer products like this,
Ugh.
I'm just like, okay, now I'm flooded with like 100 videos of what to watch on this thing, and it's like, I don't have time to watch 100 of these videos today or whatever. So I'm just skimming some of these things and seeing the performance and whatnot. But yeah, it's embargoes. Sorry.
Fine. Well, viewer, listener, what do you think about this conversation? Do you agree with us? Do you think that it's about time that we start building our own stuff more? Or are you like, you know what? You guys are so wrong. React is amazing. All these frameworks are amazing. We should keep using them. Let us know on socials or down in the YouTube comments. And with that, thank you, Matt, for joining for another episode of Break.
Of course.
And catch you all next time. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you again, viewer/listener, for staying to the end of this episode. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, too. Really appreciate it. And leave a comment. Say something. Let us know your thoughts. We really do like interacting with you. This episode of Break featured Kris Brandow and Matthew Sanabria. Break is a Fallthrough Media production and is produced by Kris Brandow, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder.